Hi, it's Terry Roberts back with another edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Vaccine Year. It is Friday, January 22nd, the second day of the Joe Biden administration, or what the Republicans are calling the failed Biden administration. And we are joined by our all-star lineup of local Santa Barbara journalists for analysis and commentary, Josh Molina, Delaney Smith, and Nick Welsh. Thank you all for being here. Delaney, I think you had the most unfortunate headline, and I know you don't write the headlines, on the vaccine this week. Vaccinations for 65 and over are right around the corner. No, they're not. They're not.
Jerry, I will actually take responsibility for that. That actually was my headline this time. And what I meant by that was that we're currently vaccinating healthcare workers and those 75 and older. But the very next group priority, the one that they are already lining up to start vaccinating, is 65 and older. So I guess it was more of a glass half full look at the situation. But the 65 and up is the next group. However,
giving false hope to the
I think it might be the glass is a quarter full, or maybe an eighth full.
Well, I mean, here's the problem. There aren't enough vaccines. I mean, they're even backing up more. The problem is we don't have a national strategy about distributing the vaccine, except I guess we do now for one day, but there hasn't been one. So there's not enough vaccines per se at all. There aren't enough in the state. The state isn't distributing them fast enough, but Santa Barbara County is actually doing a pretty good job. But what's the status of vaccine availability, Nick?
Well, we had Ron Wirth of Cottage Hospital, who is not known for sending out histrionic statements, coming as close to a holy shit Batman declaration as he is physically capable of.
There goes our KCSB listeners.
There we go. FCC is going to be on your case. But Ron Wirth was basically saying, if you are hoping for your 65 and up pass, you better, take a ticket and stand in line. We're still working on healthcare workers and frontline workers. Then we're going to get to the 75 and up. Now, the 75 and up, just to put it in perspective, that's 30,000 people. That's 30,000 people. How many vaccines has the county of Santa Barbara gotten? 32,075, somewhere in that ballpark. So and earlier this week, we had dispensed 65% of those. And the problem is that, a lot of healthcare providers are having, it's not just one, you've got to do two. And so for people at the beginning, 4 weeks ago, which is when we started doing this, they're ready for their second shot.
So we're still on healthcare workers, basically, in Santa Barbara.
We're basically on healthcare workers, and we've done a smidgen of 75 and up. Meanwhile, people living in assisted living congregate care are, and these are older people and their staff, they are saying, excuse me, we've been waiting in line here. We are an exceptionally vulnerable and frail population, and all of a sudden you're going to be giving vaccines to the 65-year-old before you give it to us. We are dying in large numbers. No disrespect. I spoke to one owner of such a place out in Goleta, and he's gone to Joan Hartman's office, he's gone to Salude's office, he's gone to Monique's office, because those vaccines are not distributed by county public health. They are distributed via CVS pharmacy and Walgreens. And they are sort of a no man's land. Now, we are told that people living in skilled nursing facilities as opposed to assisted are, the picture is better. And then we just are hearing, and I'll shut up, but then we start hearing that UCSB is distributing vaccines. And I know a couple of people who have, their staff there. One is between 65 and 70, and one is between 30 and 35 who've gotten vaccines. And I'm not really sure how that fits into the bigger picture of how we're supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Delaney, so, I mean, uh, the 65 and older thing came from Gavin, Prince Gavin, of course. And he's notorious for doing this, for like letting his big mouth get out in front of wherever any policy actually exists. And
but
he's,
now, Jerry, isn't it also the case that Gavin was responding to federal
yeah,
imperatives?
maybe, but I mean, it's such a mess. Can you explain to me, Delaney, when teachers are supposed to get this? I mean, is that going to be like after the
Yes.
65? Because that's
They're
gonna be
in
the key
that
about
next
returning to
group.
school. Say again?
Yes, they are in that right after. So 65 and up are, for a terrible term, around the corner, but directly after that group is going to be teachers. It's going to be people who work in agriculture. It's going to be grocery store workers. I think I'm missing one group there, but those are the next group to go.
Yeah, EMS. No, I mean, I have to say, I just turned 65, so naturally I'm going, oh, thank you, I just won the lottery. But I live with my 29-year-old son who works for Trader Joe's. He absolutely needs it before I do. The teachers absolutely need it before I do. If we're going to try to get schools back in any way, shape, or form, the teachers have to be calmed down and have to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Josh, I know you don't like to talk about your employment at Santa Barbara City College, but I'm just curious, have you gotten any communication from the administration at all or anything about where you would, as an instructor, be in line for getting a vaccine? Has there been any word at all?
Yeah, we've been told that we'll be in the mid-February wave timeline, whenever that is. So I'm assuming that's the same time that the K through 12 teachers will be getting vaccinated. But that's when we've been told, but it's always couched with, however, things could change, but that is what we've been told.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of reading about this online, and it is so messed up. It's unbelievable. Basically, they have enough vaccine nationally to go through April, and after that, it's anybody's guess about what's going to happen. And Biden has now set this goal of 1 million shots a day, which all the public health experts are saying is too low. It ought to be 2 million, or else we're going to be back into winter again. We're not going to be ready to go back to school in the fall and so on. So I think a lot of what people are pinning their hopes on now is that Johnson & Johnson, we have the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine, but Johnson & Johnson has one that would only require one shot. You don't have to have the follow-up booster shot. So if the FDA approves that and that comes online, and if we might be in better shape, but it's really a mess. That said, the county, I guess, has doing a pretty good job. California is ranked either 45th or 50th in how many shots they've gotten into arms of people among the states. So not very well, but I guess the numbers show that in Santa Barbara County, we're doing a better job of getting them administered.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, we were at 65%, having actually gotten them in arms, which is significantly higher than the state average. So we are doing pretty well. And it's interesting, 70% of the healthcare workers is the number that we hear, 70 to 75% have gotten it, which sort of begs the question, what happened to the other 30 to 25%? Are they declining because of some ideological or personal reasons? Or is it
well, that's a whole nother problem, because Fauci said this week, I think 80 or 85% of the population had to get the vaccine to have there be herd immunity. And they're, putting aside the QAnon people and all that, all the anti-vaxxers in Montecito, who knows how that's gonna go. Josh, I do want to sort of give kudos to your colleague Gianna Magnoli, who's doing this Q&A thing with readers about vaccines, and it's the most thankless task on earth, because everybody wants to have it right now, and but she's got a lot of detail about it, but basically there's not enough stuff. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. Just to pivot back to the schools for a second, Josh, there was an interesting story from Goleta about how they're now assuming, sounds like, nobody's going back to school for this school year, and they're talking about summer school. Is that going to happen?
So the district administration was pretty clear that they're not optimistic about things opening anytime soon because of the high case count. I think we're at something like 80 per 100,000 population, and it needs to be at 20 or 25 for them to be able to reopen again. So they're not optimistic. Some of the board members, probably one or two in particular, are more wanting to relook at things in March and say, hey, maybe we'll be able to reopen by then. But what the administration is doing is saying, let's plan for summer school. There's going to be students, and they're talking about the ones who are the most impacted, the ones who struggled the most, that have the most challenges. Let's think about offering summer school to them, maybe 150 students at Ivy Elementary in El Camino. And let's have 15, 20 teachers teach them. And this is a way for them to catch up and get the support that they need. So it's sort of the cohort model that's in place now, but extended into the summer to offer them that opportunity.
And would that be required, or would that be optional?
I don't know the answer to that. That didn't come up. I'm assuming that it would be optional, but I don't know the answer to that. It was talked about as an option.
Jerry, I actually tuned in that presentation as well, and I asked the superintendent the following day about that. It would be optional, and Josh is right. It would be targeted towards those who have the highest needs. But that's usual for Goleta Union. There's summer school that's targeted towards kids with the highest needs. This time they're actually trying to expand it to even kids who don't necessarily have higher needs. They're just kids who are experiencing learning loss from distance learning.
And what are you hearing from your sources in the Santa Barbara district about, is that on the horizon for SB Unified, or are they still thinking we're going to go back this year?
It is, it's really honestly more of a school by school basis. I've talked to a couple schools on this. Franklin has an entire plan. They have a 4-tiered system for summer school. Whereas Cleveland is just now getting the conversation rolling. They don't really have a plan in place yet, but the conversation is beginning. So it really is a school by school basis.
I thought,
does Josh have any idea in terms of how many students in the Santa Barbara district have simply dropped out, that they're just not even logging on? Do we have any idea of like how many people have just gone into the ether?
That number has changed quite a bit. Josh, I don't know if you have the most recent number. What I can say is that participation has been the number one problem with distance learning, and finding a way to get kids online has been their main mission. So I know that there's significantly less kids who are not logging on anymore.
Are they, because there has been a substantial decrease in the number of students, but I imagine it's hard to differentiate between those who maybe decided to go to private school, or those who just dropped out, or those who were in pods or whatever.
Yeah, the last time I reported on that, it was about 400 students
in Santa Barbara Unified who had left and or not logged on, and the district had said we're reaching out to them, but I don't know what the follow-up was. Goleta, Santa Barbara, a little bit are a tale of two districts. Obviously, Goleta Union is just K-6, and it's smaller, but they claim to be knowledgeable of everybody, every kid in the school through outreach. And so they're able to ask them, what is your issue? What is your problem in terms of accessing the technology? And so they're working with various organizations to help them. So as Delaney knows, and she's going to dive into it way deeper than I am, is
the learning loss is a little bit less in Goleta Union because of their proactive approaches, although Hispanics are the most impacted through distance learning. So the issues we had before are the same, just a little worse with this situation.
And then Delaney, you had this story about this guy, Matef Harmachi, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I mean, I couldn't believe that. I mean, I remember back in when we were still at the morning paper, you know, this guy was a problem and he was gotten rid of, and now who's getting sued over his presence?
So both the district and Harmakis himself are getting sued. And it's a lawsuit that was filed, I believe, in November of 2020. So it's really recent. And it's about the most recent incident that finally got him his teaching credential stripped. And it was a 2017 incident where a female student was sexually harassed by him in the classroom during classroom hours. That was the final straw. He actually got a criminal sentence for that. And that was what allowed him to finally get stripped of his teaching credential.
But this started in the aughts, right? I mean, this
started, and yes, this started, 20 years ago. Back in 2005, there were issues with him physically assaulting a couple male students in the classroom. But again, he wasn't charged with any crimes then. And even though the district spent well over $1 million trying to remove him, they could not. It just kind of goes to show how difficult it is to remove a teacher.
Because the union supported his continued employment, because the CTA supported his continued employment?
I don't know if the Teachers Association back in 2005 supported his continued employment. I would assume so, because the district fought tooth and nail to get him out of there, and they just couldn't do it. And the behavior continued. And that's why the district is part of this lawsuit. That's why they're being sued, is that the Jane Doe, the student who was sexually harassed, their point of view is the district should have removed him long before he ever had a chance to do that.
And then he shows up, at some workshop about ethnic studies, or what was that about?
He was with ethnic studies at a board meeting. It was a virtual meeting, but there's a little bit, I want to make it clear, I haven't spoken to someone with ethnic studies now. So what I've heard from someone close to ethnic studies now is that they don't agree with what the district is saying. And the district is saying that they had no idea that Hamakis was with ethnic studies now. He was never invited to the meeting, and that the district made it known in the strongest terms to ethnic studies now that he was never welcome back. However, like I said, a source close to ethnic studies now let me know that, ethnic studies now was not talked to by the district at all, and that conversation didn't happen. So there's a little bit of he said, she said there. And I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
I was just curious. You said that this was not a civil matter. This was a criminal case that has been adjudicated from 2017.
Yes.
That means the DA filed charges and he was found guilty or pled.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
You know what?
There's two different.
Go ahead.
There's two different things going on, which is why the story is layered and confusing, is because the criminal stuff happened a while ago, and now they come with the civil suit. So
And this is Mr. Manley, the Southern California guy who's has a fearsome reputation in pursuing these kinds of cases, who's brought this case. So, okay, so the criminal stuff has been resolved. He's out, but then he does or doesn't show up with ethnic studies, and now this is the second shoe dropping, where the
press release that came out. The press release that came out said they call on the district to remove him from any attachment to ethnic studies now, and that's like the new stuff. That's like the interesting stuff. So I don't know what his relationship is with that group now. He does appear on their website, but you know, I started some reporting on this story, and I reached out to Ethnic Studies Now, and no one called me back. So I mean, it's like it's tough, but clearly the district is in the hot seat for another example of this kind of stuff.
Well, let me ask you, this is what I don't get. What authority does the district have to tell Ethnic Studies Now who can and can't show up and who can and cannot affiliate? I mean, is
Well, that's a
Ethnic
good-
Studies Now a subset of the district?
That's a really
Or is
good
it,
question. And it gets,
independent organization with its own, rules and guidelines?
yeah, it kind of
mean,
gets back to this interface between the district and nonprofits that, kind of are aligned with the district that we saw with the Matt Academy. And, that the Matt Academy fundraising arm was employing a guy who, as we all know, got fired but had been on campus, had been interacting with students and so on. I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict that we might be hearing more from our friends at Fair Education about this at the next school board public comment meeting, because
Yeah.
Well, the thing that, Harmakis was a really charismatic teacher. And, my daughter took classes from him, and, she said when he was great, when he was good, he was great. When he was bad, he was terrible. But he was very political, and he's very charismatic. And he's exactly the sort of teacher that, more conservative minded organizations are going to flip out about ideologically, let alone because of, transgressions in terms of putting hands on students.
Yeah, and then I read on one of the message boards, I think it was Ed had in the comments, and I don't know if this was confirmed or not, that he's also an author or co-author of a book that had was on display at the public library as, good reading for, Martin Luther King Day or something like that. And people were also upset about that. Okay, well, lots of questions about that one. Hey, Nick, on the tenant protection front, the economic front of the pandemic, the state, and again, this is so confusing to me, but the state moratorium on evictions expires January 31st. Is that correct? And they're trying once again to pass legislation that would protect.
So, yeah, it's a really complicated thing, but, simplified, the moratorium on evictions based on failure to pay because of COVID expires at the end of January.
And that's the state, not.
And that is the state one. And there is a desperate mad dash scramble at the Senate and at the Assembly to pass a bill. One proposal, I think, would extend the protections for 4 months. Another bill would protect it for a year. It's definitely going to be a meet in the middle situation. In the meantime, local governments, if the state does not do something, local governments will be hard pressed not to extend that.
Okay, so there is not a local moratorium in place at the moment, correct?
I believe that the moratoriums that the state and the county passed have lapsed. But again, it's so complicated because they have different schedules and different, expiration dates. And so I think that, again, my answer is, I think you're right, but I could be wrong.
But we're on the cusp of another
We
cliff.
are definitely on the cusp. And so what happens is,
Is
if,
that a mixed metaphor? I don't know. I'm sorry.
yeah. So, yeah, and a month later, landlords who have not gotten paid rent over the past 4 or 5 months will be able to sue those tenants in small claims. So there is great fear. I spoke with State Senator Monique Limon and State Assembly person Steve Bennett last week, and there's great fear that there's going to be this avalanche of evictions. And so the state has to do something.
All right. All right, we're a couple minutes left. Josh, who's up on the podcast?
Oh, Jerry, I'm interviewing one of your good, close, personal, longtime friends, Daraka Larimore Hall.
Ooh, that should be fascinating. A
Yeah.
full and frank exchange of views.
Yeah, well, we got the Democratic Party and their king-making abilities and mayor's race and all the cool stuff that you're going to want to watch and learn from.
Wow.
Learn something.
So have you got the video up? So you are now formally stealing market share from me, are you?
I don't think anybody can touch you, Jerry, but we can add to the landscape.
Do you have the video up though? Seriously?
It will be up today or tomorrow. I just need to
All right. And
find time to do it.
what's the website again?
SantaBarbaraTalks.com.
All right. And when's your learning loss piece coming, Delaney?
It just got moved, so it's not gonna run till mid-February. But I know, but it'll be done by
What,
this
do we
week.
have some great theater awards or something to put in place? Zoom Theater Award? What was why did they get moved? I want to
They
read.
moved it for Black History Month, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. But I am looking forward to reading that piece. And then Chief, you went off on the transition into the Biden-Harris administration, talking about competence and compassion, two words we haven't heard a lot about from the previous occupant. What do you think? Is that going to make any difference in our lives, or are we just mentally able to relax a little bit?
Well, it's funny. I think for me and for other people I know, on the inauguration day, for those of us who have been so much horrified by the last 4 years, on inauguration day, it was like we all got drunk with the idea of the possibility that you would have competence and compassion. It is an interesting thing that the Democrats tend to do much better in the competence department in terms of national emergencies. Like if you look at Bill Clinton, he actually was really good at that. He had James Lee Witt as his emergency response manager, and everybody knows James Lee Witt is a serious badass. Obama, he was the one who had a 69-page manifesto on what you do to deal with a pandemic, and that got tossed out the window. So the Republicans, George W. Bush, he did so well with Katrina. So we're hopeful, but I think that on day two, I experienced, day one, I experienced sort of a drunken euphoria. Day two, I had a massive hangover of sort of, oh my God, we have so much work to do and how daunting the task is. So
my measure is the Republicans have welcomed two QAnon believers into their caucus, and yesterday one of their members tried to walk through the magnometer at the Capitol with a gun. So happy times lie ahead. All right, everybody, thank you for taking the time to talk. We'll see you next week, and everybody stay safe, and let me know when those 65 and over vaccines are ready. I'll talk to you.